In the kitchen, my stepsister crossed every boundary with me in a way that was both shocking and unforgettable. A true tale of infidelity. That day in the kitchen remains etched in my memory as one of the most chaotic yet thrilling moments of my life, all due to my stepsister Lauren. On that seemingly ordinary Wednesday afternoon, an eerie quietness wrapped around the house, interrupted solely by the gentle, steady ticking of the wall clock in the kitchen. For much of the day, I found myself solitary within the confines of my home, wandering through the myriad channels on the television, in search of a way to occupy the passing hours. My father and his wife, Karen, had embarked on a day of errands or whatever pursuits filled their hours when they mysteriously disappeared together. That left Lauren and I in solitude within the confines of the house. Lauren and I had never forged a profound connection. Despite our similar ages, we existed as striking opposites in nearly every regard. She was always the one with a keen eye for detail, the kind of girl who devised a plan for every possible scenario. I was the laid-back, carefree type, content to float along with the flow. Our relationship consistently upheld a veneer of friendliness, yet lingered in a realm of separation. We inhabited the same space, exchanging polite nods, but that was the extent of our bond. In recent times, however, a subtle shift had taken place. In the past few weeks, I noticed a shift in Lauren's perception of me. At first, I found myself doubting my own senses, the way her eyes lingered on mine for a moment longer than necessary, the delicate justifications she wove to place herself in my vicinity, inching ever so slightly closer. It was understated, unnoticed by the untrained eye, yet I felt it profoundly. It hovered in the shadows, a subtle force that slowly began to erode my peace of mind. That afternoon, I found myself in the kitchen, casually scrolling through my phone as the sun streamed in through the windows. I tried to ignore the strange energy that hung in the air whenever Lauren made her entrance. She had lingered in her room for what seemed like an eternity, or so I thought, but the instant I felt footsteps echoing behind me, I realized she was ready to unveil herself. Salutations. As Lauren stepped into the kitchen, her voice pierced the silence that hung in the air. I raised my eyes from the screen, and there she stood, silhouetted in the doorway, her arms crossed firmly over her chest. She seemed relaxed, yet an intensity lingered in her gaze, a spark that quickened my heartbeat just a fraction. I replied with a casual demeanor, striving to uphold an aura of calmness. "Greetings," she shrugged, moving further into the kitchen, her gaze fixed on me. There was no specific reason. I simply felt compelled to descend the stairs. The ambience here is quite serene. I inclined my head and set my phone down delicately upon the table. Certainly, it is. Karen and Dad are unlikely to be back for a while. Lauren stole a quick look at the clock before her eyes found mine again, a delicate smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I comprehend, and that is exactly the reason I journeyed to this place. A tightness coiled within me at her words, yet the cause remained just out of reach. Her gaze possessed an unusual allure, a captivating mix of playfulness and seriousness that drew me in. It ignited a feeling of discomfort deep within, while also kindling a flame of intrigue. Lauren moved toward the stove, her hand reaching for a glass tucked away in the cabinet, and filled it with water. She moved with a deliberate elegance, every step imbued with a consciousness of my watchful eyes. Truly, I found myself utterly unable to withstand the pull. Her movements exuded a captivating charm, with strands of hair flowing softly over her shoulders, while the delicate curve of her lips shaped a small, knowing smile. One found it challenging to look away. "What draws you to this secluded realm?" she asked, taking a moment to relish a sip from her glass while leaning against the counter. I shrugged, striving to keep my demeanor relaxed and carefree. "It appears I am ensnared in a languid state, idly counting the moments until they come back to me." She nodded, her eyes steady and locked onto mine. "Your recent conduct has been quite peculiar." The comment caught me off guard, and I found myself slightly furrowing my brow. "Unusual? Would you be able to elaborate on your meaning?" Lauren tilted her head, a subtle smile blossoming across her face. "I find myself in a state of uncertainty. It appears you have been avoiding my company." My eyes widened, astonished by her sharp perception. I had not contemplated the possibility that I was avoiding her presence. However, it seems that may very well be the truth. The unintentional tension that had been simmering between us was unmistakable, leaving me feeling adrift in my attempts to find a way through it. "I'm not avoiding you," I insisted, yet my voice revealed a trace of doubt. With a subtle arch of her eyebrow, she set her glass down delicately on the counter. "Is that truly the case? It appears that you are." I shifted uneasily in my seat, wrestling with the ambiguity of my reply. In truth, I had been keeping a deliberate distance from Lauren. A shadow of uncertainty enveloped us, a tangible change that eluded my understanding. The essence of our bond seemed to shift, casting me into a state of uncertainty as I navigated this unfamiliar landscape. Doubt hung in the air of my thoughts. Was it simply my imagination, or did she also feel this silent bond between us? Nevertheless, I had been striving to set it aside. I found myself offering a weak excuse, claiming I had simply been busy, fully conscious that it held no genuine justification. Lauren's smile widened as she drew closer, her eyes glimmering with a mysterious charm that eluded my understanding. "It appears you have your hands full, don't you? Are you genuinely too occupied to engage in a conversation with me?" Her voice danced with a playful lilt, but beneath that buoyancy, I sensed a profound, more serious undertone lurking just beneath the surface. She was not simply playing with language. Within her silence lay a profound truth, an unvoiced depth that echoed far beyond the surface. "I'm not avoiding you, Lauren," I reiterated, my voice softer this time, laced with a hint of uncertainty. She took another step forward, now just 4 feet separating us. The ambience in the room was thick, an oppressive force enveloping the distance that lay between us. My heart pounded in my chest, and I swallowed hard, fighting to keep my composure. "I believe you are," she murmured, her gaze probing into mine. "But you don't have to." I halted, briefly taken aback by her words. The space around us felt tighter, the gap between our souls narrowing with every passing second. Lauren's presence surrounded me, her proximity muddling my thoughts and rendering me disoriented. "I don't know what you're talking about," I replied, my voice fading into the silence that enveloped us. Lauren edged closer, her face mere inches from my own. The embrace of her warmth surrounded me, a soft glow radiating from her skin. My heart pounded fiercely in my chest, and my mind raced wildly as I fought to comprehend the reality that was unraveling before me. This was my stepsister, a figure intertwined with my life for the past 2 years. In this instant, she had transcended the identity of a sister. She metamorphosed into an entirely new entity. "You needn't wear a mask," Lauren murmured, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "I have no doubt you felt it too." I held my breath, a hitch forming in my throat as her words pierced through my awareness. She was indeed right. I felt it, the palpable tension, the unspoken connection that had been subtly developing between us for weeks. I tried to brush it aside, convincing myself it was nothing more than a creation of my mind. Yet with her so close, her eyes locked onto mine, the reality was inescapable. I started to articulate my thoughts, but my voice wavered, dissipating into the abyss of doubt. Lauren's hand moved gently, reaching out to lightly brush against my arm. The caress was delicate, nearly otherworldly, yet it sparked a rush of vitality inside me, accelerating my heartbeat to a thrilling rhythm. "You needn't utter a word," she murmured, a subtle, knowing smile playing upon her lips. "End the pretense." Before I could respond, Lauren stepped nearer, her lips softly brushing against my cheek. The act was simple, almost innocent, yet it sparked every essence of my existence. I stood frozen, ensnared in a fleeting instant where both movement and clarity slipped away, as the gravity of the emerging truth enveloped me. This was not simply a product of my imagination. It was a tangible tension that hung in the air. Lauren felt the weight of the moment, and there was no retreating from what lay ahead. I stood still, entranced as Lauren's lips brushed against my cheek. It was not a full kiss, but rather a playful tease, an implication of something deeper, and yet it was enough to make my heart race. The gentle warmth of her breath caressed my skin, while the soft pressure of her lips lingered in the air, a seductive reminder of our intimacy. "Lauren," I murmured, my voice barely lifting above a whisper. Words eluded me, leaving me uncertain about the depths of my true feelings. A part of me compelled a retreat, to end this before it could deepen, while another, the one I had fought to keep at bay, longed for her presence, to reveal the journey that awaited us. She stood motionless. Instead, she bestowed upon me a soft, knowing smile that set my heart racing. What could it be? She asked with an air of innocence, as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. The tension that hung between us was unmistakable, a palpable energy swirling in the air like static electricity. I started with the phrase, "we can't," but those words reverberated in my mind, empty and hollow, as though I had no faith in the strength of my own voice. My thoughts spun in a tumultuous ballet, wrestling to comprehend the reality that was unfolding before me. Before me stood Lauren, my stepsister. This was not correct, was it? Once again, she moved, closing the distance between us, her presence softly brushing against me. The warmth radiated from her skin, a tender softness in her touch as she raised her hand and placed it gently against my chest. My breath hitched in my throat as a flood of emotions swelled inside me. Bewilderment, exhilaration, trepidation, and a fleeting sensation that twirled just out of reach. "Who has the audacity to assert that we are incapable?" she murmured, her eyes locked onto mine with unwavering focus. Her eyes bore a challenge, a question suspended in the air between us. I swallowed hard, striving to clear my thoughts, but it proved futile to think clearly with her so close, her touch igniting tremors through every fiber of my being. "You grasp the rationale," I expressed, my voice quivering with doubt. Lauren's hand traced a delicate path down my chest, her fingers embarking on a slow, deliberate exploration that quickened my heartbeat further. "Am I?" she asked softly, a playful smile flickering across her face. "Your longing for this seems to reflect my own sentiments." Her words hit me like a sudden impact, leaving me gasping and my mind swirling in chaos. Was she right? Did I truly wish for this from the outset? A shiver ran through me, accompanied by a surge of guilt rising from deep within. Yet, at the same time, there was another force, one that was undeniably stronger. A part of my essence had awaited this moment with a quiet longing, craving it without entirely recognizing the depth of that yearning. "I do not." I started anew. Yet again my voice dwindled, leaving the thought unfinished. Lauren edged nearer, her form intertwining with mine, and I felt the rapid cadence of her heartbeat thrumming through her chest. Her eyes possessed a captivating intensity, overflowing with a mixture of desire and curiosity, making it entirely impossible to look away. "There's no need for fear," she murmured, her fingers gliding up to cradle the side of my neck, her thumb grazing softly along my jawline. "The time for pretense has passed." The earth appeared to tremble beneath my feet, as though the very fabric of reality had skewed, casting me into a tumultuous dance of doubt and confusion. There was an unmistakable discord in the air, yet it hummed with a haunting familiarity, as though we had been treading a long-forgotten road that led us to this precise instant, even if we both shied away from admitting it. "This is Lauren." I made another attempt, but my voice trembled. She shook her head, silencing me with the softest of movements, her fingers brushing delicately against my lips. "It's okay," she murmured, her voice steady and resolute. "Words are superfluous." In that ephemeral instant, just before I could step in, Lauren approached, her lips brushing against mine in a kiss that was both tender and electrifying, infused with an unmistakable intensity. It commenced gently, imbued with a hint of hesitation, as if she were extending an invitation for me to withdraw. Nevertheless, I held back. I found myself unable to do so. In that moment, I found myself kissing her back, my hands instinctively moving to her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, slow and deliberate, igniting a wave of heat within me, spreading like wildfire. Every nerve in my body tingled, every inch of my skin pulsating with the electric intensity of the moment. Lauren's fingers danced through my hair, her body pressing against mine, crafting a weight that turned each breath into a struggle. This was authentic, this was in the process of revealing itself. I longed for it to stretch on forever. As we at last parted, breathless and filled with exhilaration, our foreheads touched softly, a fleeting moment of closeness as we both tried to catch our breath. The world blurred into a soft mist, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed as though time had come to a standstill, where nothing else mattered but the two of us, standing in the kitchen, caught in an unforeseen moment that neither of us could have foreseen. "What has just occurred?" I whispered, my voice quaking yet overflowing with disbelief. Lauren's lips curved into a soft, yet mischievous smile as her eyes locked onto mine. "What is this feeling?" I swallowed hard, my mind still a tempest of confusion. I found myself utterly speechless in reaction to that. The essence of our relationship appeared to have shifted, as the tension that had been simmering beneath the surface for weeks finally burst forth into the light. It appeared that there was no way to turn back, no possibility of undoing the events that had just transpired. "I don't know," I admitted quietly, my fingers resting gently on her waist. "Nevertheless, this is not a path we can follow." Lauren's smile flickered ever so slightly, yet she stood her ground, unwilling to back down. Instead, she looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race once more. "What holds us back?" she asked, her voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "What restrains us?" Her words ignited a tempest of bewilderment and excitement within me, tightening the knots in my stomach. This was erroneous. It must have been an oversight. Still, the depth of her stare, the gentleness of her kiss, made everything feel intensely real, completely unavoidable. "Text, you're my stepsister," I murmured, the words escaping my lips with a delicate uncertainty, as if they were not so much a justification but rather a timid effort to make sense of the circumstances. Lauren raised an eyebrow, a smile slowly returning to her lips. "What significance does it hold?" she asked, her voice soft but resolute. "Though we are not bound by blood, we are simply two distinct individuals. Do not let that impede your journey forward." Her reasoning set my mind in a tumultuous spin. In a technical sense, she occupied the rightful stance. Though we were not connected by blood, our relationship was crafted through the intertwining of our parents' lives. Yet, the weight of that truth hung heavily upon me, enveloping me in an inescapable shadow. "But what of them? What is the current status between Dad and Karen?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lauren's smile faded, and she released a soft sigh, pulling back just enough to create a subtle space between us. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yet, I am aware that I can no longer pretend that nothing is unfolding between us." Her words resonated within me, unleashing a cascade of emotions, guilt swirling like a tempest, confusion enveloping me in a fog, and beneath it all, a profound sensation that I found difficult to articulate. She was undeniably right. We could no longer uphold the pretense. The tension that had lingered between us for far too long had finally reached its peak, and now that the moment had come, there was no turning back. "What shall we do now?" I hesitated, unsure if we could just dismiss this. My thoughts continued to swirl around me. Lauren nodded, her eyes soft as they locked onto mine. "We don't need to solve everything right now," she said gently. "Let's take it one step at a time." Her words brought an unforeseen calm to the storm that had been raging inside me. She was undeniably right. We need not have all the answers at once. What we truly required was to face the truth, both within ourselves and in our interactions with one another, concerning the situation that was unfolding. I took a deep breath, feeling the constriction in my chest start to fade away. "Indeed," I responded with a soft and soothing voice. "Advancement reveals itself slowly, one step after another." Lauren smiled, a genuine and sincere smile this time, and the sight of it enveloped my heart in warmth. "We'll figure it out," she whispered gently, harmonizing with the moment. In that ephemeral moment, I discovered a newfound belief in her. Nevertheless, the story was far from finished. The days that followed that crucial moment in the kitchen slipped away in a haze, and the tension between Lauren and me seemed to grow sharper with every hour that ticked by. It transcended the mere memory of that kiss, or the way her fingertips kindled a fire deep within me. We felt the weight of a boundary crossed, one that had closed irrevocably behind us, leaving everything transformed in its wake. We attempted to move through our days as though all was as it had always been, as if nothing had occurred, yet this proved to be an impossible endeavor. Each time we occupied the same space, the air shimmered with an unspoken tension, a vibrant energy that hung between us. With every passing look and the slightest touch of skin, my heart quickened, reflecting the intensity one saw in Lauren's gaze. An undeniable force seemed to pull us closer, even as we recognized the danger that awaited us. One evening, about a week after the kitchen incident, I settled onto the couch in the living room, trying to focus on the television, but my mind kept wandering. The delicate sound of Lauren moving gracefully in the kitchen filled the air, mingling with the subtle clink of plates and the soft thump of cabinet doors closing as she organized the remnants of dinner. Once again, my father and Karen had embarked on an evening out, presumably to another dinner party, leaving the house empty of all but the two of us. The stillness of the house wrapped around me, a profound void that magnified the tumult of my mind. My mind was enveloped by Lauren, the intensity of her gaze that seemed to penetrate my very being, the fleeting caress of her lips against mine, and the residual warmth of her touch that lingered long after she had withdrawn. Every second in her company crackled with an unarticulated energy, and the more I tried to ignore it, the more it surged. Just as I was about to rise and retreat to my room, Lauren appeared in the doorway of the living room, her hands drying on a dish towel. For a fleeting instant, she held her tongue, her eyes locked onto mine with unwavering intensity. The look on her face sent a shiver down my spine, and I could sense my heart pounding in my chest. "Are you feeling okay?" she asked, her voice soft but laced with a subtle hint of something I couldn't quite place. I nodded, feeling a tightness constricting my throat. As she stepped into the room, lost in thought, Lauren tossed the dish towel onto a nearby chair and perched herself on the edge of the couch, mere feet away from me. The air crackled with energy, and I felt my heart pounding fiercely in my chest. "What is it regarding?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. For a fleeting moment, I found myself suspended in a delicate web of uncertainty, grappling with how to articulate my response. She had taken residence in my mind, entwined with the echoes of our shared moments, ever since that fateful evening in the kitchen. Yet I found myself grappling with silence, unsure if I was ready to confront the reality of what was developing between us. All that I finally expressed, my voice barely lifting above a murmur. Lauren nodded, her gaze steady and unyielding as it held mine in a firm embrace. Indeed, I resonate with that feeling. For a brief instant, we remained in quietude, the weight of everything left unsaid enveloping us like a dense mist. The air crackled with tension, an unseen bond drawing us closer with every passing second. In that instant, it dawned on me that if I didn't stand up and create some space right away, the circumstances were set to escalate in a way I wasn't sure I could manage. Still, I lingered. Instead, I found myself drawn nearer to her, pulled by an invisible force that I could no longer withstand. Lauren stood her ground, unwavering in her resolve. Her gaze met mine, eyes soft and inviting, mirroring the deep yearning evident in her expression. Her longing reflected my own. We had agreed to take it slow, I whispered, my voice quivering with uncertainty. Lauren smiled, a delicate, knowing smile that quickened my heartbeat. "We are proceeding with care," she whispered softly. "Nevertheless, that does not suggest we should ignore the events that are currently unfolding." Her words ignited a rush of vitality inside me, and before I could hold back, I leaned in, closing the distance that lay between us. Lauren met me halfway, her lips brushing against mine in a kiss that was soft, tentative, echoing the memory of our very first meeting. In that moment, there existed a complete lack of hesitation and an absence of guilt. Finally, we yielded to the undeniable tension that had been building between us for weeks. The kiss deepened, slow and deliberate, as Lauren's hand glided up to rest on the back of my neck, pulling me closer. My heart pounded in my chest, a vivid energy surging through my skin, charged by the raw intensity of the moment. In that instant, It seemed as if the universe faded away, leaving just her presence behind. Her touch, her warmth, her very presence, the core of my existence. As we finally parted, our breaths came in ragged gasps, our foreheads softly meeting as we endeavored to reclaim our composure. The world blurred into a dreamlike state, and for a fleeting moment, it felt as though we were the only beings in the boundless cosmos. I gently proposed that perhaps we should consider stopping, even though, in the depths of my heart, I wasn't entirely sincere in that suggestion. My hands rested on her waist, a hesitant hold I found difficult to let go of. Lauren smiled, her fingers gently gliding along the contours of my face. Are you genuinely prepared to bring this to a close? In a fleeting instant, my heart raced within my chest. Uncertainty envelopes me, a reluctance to disturb the fragile equilibrium that exists. She released a soft sigh, her forehead resting tenderly against mine. I appreciate your viewpoint, yet it seems we may not be causing any disruption after all. Perhaps we are merely charting our course through it all. Her words hung in the air between us, and I realized I could not refute the truth in her assertion. This seemed deliberate, not a mere blunder, but rather something that felt wholly appropriate. A powerful force appeared to have been building for an eternity, finally bursting forth to unveil its true nature. I don't know what we're supposed to do, I admitted, my voice barely rising above a whisper. Lauren leaned in, her voice unwavering. Yet I am aware, she remarked. In that fleeting moment, I could no longer hold back, and she sensed my turmoil, leading her lips to find theirs against mine. With passionate abandon, we yielded to the present. The experience was truly remarkable. Lost in the depths of the moment, I found myself utterly enchanted by the intimacy that blossomed from the kiss, barely aware of the world swirling around me. My fervor seemed to propel us toward a rapid conclusion, yet she remained unperturbed by the entire affair. A surge of relief enveloped me. After a brief moment of stillness, she moved, standing tall as she proclaimed, "We'll figure it out," before disappearing up the stairs. As she approached the stairs, I gave a subtle nod, but deep within, a silent conviction remained that the journey ahead would be anything but simple. The days that followed seemed to stretch on, as though we were caught in an odd state of suspension, a reality paused in time. Lauren and I found ourselves in a realm unexplored, where turning back was no longer a possibility. Every glance, every touch, every fleeting moment carried a weight that hung in the air between us, unvoiced yet undeniably felt. Although we never uttered a word about the occurrences that unfolded between us, the bond remained, tangible and unavoidable. I strove to uphold my routine with a facade of normalcy, yet an unmistakable change hung in the atmosphere, as though everything had been irrevocably altered. Lauren's presence in the house was undeniable, a force that commanded attention. Her footsteps resonated gently as she traversed the space, and her gaze seemed to wield a palpable power, following my every movement whenever we occupied the same room. The air thickened around us, each interaction crackling with an unspoken intensity, heavy with feelings left unsaid. One evening, about a week after that second kiss, we found ourselves once again alone in the house. My dad and Karen had gone out for dinner, leaving us wrapped in a silence that amplified every thought, every feeling. Seated at the kitchen table, I found my fingers absently flipping through the pages of a magazine that failed to capture my attention, a weak effort to distract myself from the heavy tension that seemed to grow with every passing second. Lauren glided into the kitchen, her movements deliberate and poised, and my heart quickened as she took her place in the chair across from me. The room was enveloped in a soft twilight, with the only light spilling from the lamp suspended above the table, casting intricate shadows that played across her face. At first, she was quiet, just sitting there, her eyes fixed on mine, her expression shrouded in enigma. "We need to talk," she finally said, her voice a gentle whisper, yet imbued with a firm determination. I set the magazine down, my heart racing within me. The gravity of this dialogue hung heavily in the air, a specter I had been bracing for, despite its inescapable presence. The pretense that all was well could no longer be sustained. We could no longer ignore the unmistakable shadow that hovered in our midst. Indeed, I replied, my voice quivering. It appears that we truly do. Lauren leaned forward subtly, her fingers woven together atop the table before her. For a fleeting instant, she held her tongue. Her eyes locked onto mine as if weighing the most fitting way to begin. The silence surrounding us was dense, almost suffocating, and I felt the weight of all the unsaid thoughts pressing heavily upon me. I don't know what to do, she murmured, her eyes glistening with a mixture of uncertainty and fragility. I find myself grappling with the question of how we ought to behave in this particular moment. I nodded, my throat constricting as I sought the ideal words to convey my thoughts. I share that sentiment. Truthfully, I discovered myself lacking any solutions. My thoughts were shrouded in uncertainty. I found myself uncertain about our forthcoming actions and the journey that lay before us. All I grasped was that the interplay between us had transformed, and there was no way back to the bygone days we once cherished. Do you experience any regret for it? Lauren asked suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her question caught me off guard, and a rush of anxiety washed over me. Did I experience any regret for it? The kisses, the moments we shared, the connection that had been blossoming between us for weeks? My thoughts roiled like a storm as I wrestled with her question. Yet the answer was clear, even if I was reluctant to admit it. No, I murmured softly, shaking my head. I harbor no regrets. Lauren's shoulders relaxed slightly, and I noticed a flicker of relief shimmering in her eyes. Neither did I, she confessed, her voice a mere whisper, almost lost in the air. Yet an unsettling dread wraps around me. I knitted my brow, leaning in closer. What is there to be afraid of? With a gentle exhale, she ran her fingers through her hair, striving to gather her disarrayed thoughts. I'm frightened by what this signifies, she murmured, her voice trembling. A chill of dread envelopes me as I contemplate the uncertain future that awaits us if we persist on this course. A chill runs through me at the mere contemplation of the consequences that may arise from our decision to remain passive. Her words hit me with a power that created a tightness in my throat. Her sentiment struck a chord within me, echoing my own feelings with clarity. A fragment of my soul longed to press on, to delve into the intricacies of the connection we held and to unveil the paths it could lead us down. Yet within me lingered a deep-seated terror, brimming with dread at the potential consequences, engulfed by thoughts of how it would affect our family, my father and Karen. I don't know what the right thing is, I confessed, my voice barely rising above a whisper. Nevertheless, the mere idea of being without you envelopes me in a profound sense of fear. Lauren looked up at me, her eyes overflowing with emotion. You won't, she whispered softly. Nevertheless, we must decipher this puzzle. I nodded, feeling my heart race within the confines of my chest. Certainly, we do. For a prolonged stretch, we existed in silence, the weight of our conversation hanging heavily in the air. The atmosphere was thick with an unmistakable tension, a vibrant energy that hung in the air between us, refusing to dissipate. Yet an extra nuance hung in the atmosphere. A deep realization unfolded, an acknowledgement that the journey we were undertaking could no longer be maintained. A choice loomed ahead. In a swift motion, Lauren stood up from her chair, the legs dragging across the floor as she approached the window. She paused briefly, her eyes fixed on the deepening shadows of the sky. Her arms were folded tightly across her chest. I watched her intently, my mind a tempest of thoughts, as I struggled to find the right words and the appropriate actions to convey my feelings. What if we paused for a moment? She proposed at last, her back still facing me. Could it be time for a brief interlude? I reiterated, my brow knitting in concern. Lauren turned to face me, her expression serious. Truly, a moment of relief from whatever this might entail. Let us take a moment to pause and consider, to uncover our genuine aspirations. Her words echoed with precision, yet they wrapped around me in a veil of discomfort. The thought of pulling away, of establishing distance between us, tightened my chest with an unsettling grip. In that instant, I grasped the profound truth embedded in her words. We could no longer endure this way, trapped within a circumstance that slipped beyond our understanding. That might be a prudent thought, I whispered, yet the words hung weightily in my mouth. Lauren nodded, her eyes soft as they locked onto mine. We don't have to make any decisions right now, she said gently, but we need some space to figure things out. I struggled to swallow, my head bobbing in agreement. You certainly make a valid observation. The room fell into silence again, but this time it bore a palpable heaviness. The tension that once surrounded us started to fade, revealing a fresh clarity, a more profound comprehension. While we may not have possessed all the answers, we had set forth on the first steps of our journey into discovery. And that was enough for the time being. Lauren made her way back to the table, resuming her place across from me. She reached out, her hand enveloping mine in a soft embrace. A sudden warmth enveloped me, sparking a deep and meaningful connection. Her touch wrapped around me like a warm embrace, instilling a profound sense of familiarity and comfort. In that ephemeral instant, I realized that no matter the unpredictable paths our relationship might traverse, the mere thought of losing her was unbearable. Her importance in my life was beyond measure. "We'll figure it out," she said softly, her thumb gliding gently over the back of my hand. Every day reveals itself in its unique rhythm. I inclined my head, my fingers gently encircling hers. Every day reveals itself in its unique rhythm. In that moment, it became clear to me that she was, without a doubt, right. There was no urgency in our choices. It is not essential for us to have every answer right now. We had no choice but to welcome each day as it arrived, permitting events to reveal themselves in their own cadence. As the evening unfolded, the tension that had hung between us slowly faded, replaced by a peaceful sense of calm. There was no need to explore the past or ponder the future. We were compelled to uplift each other, to adopt a deliberate rhythm, to explore the intricacies of our feelings. That night, our lips were untouched by the tender sweetness of a kiss. We decided to refrain from progressing the situation any further. In the quiet embrace of the kitchen, we stood close, our fingers woven together, exchanging words that twirled around the ordinary, relishing the uncomplicated joy of our shared presence. The weight of our situation remained, though it no longer pressed upon us with the same force it had before. We had set forth on the first leg of our quest for understanding, and that in itself was enough. As the minutes elongated into hours and the stillness wrapped around the house, an epiphany began to unfold within me. No matter the events that unfolded between Lauren and me, and regardless of the decisions we would face in the days to come, one truth remained unmistakably clear in my mind. I had crossed a threshold that was irrevocable, yet deep down, it scarcely disturbed me.